Hello and welcome back to Podcast with Neil on Netflix Football. The Roses Derby is upon us. Possibly not a repeat. Varun would kill me if there's a repeat of the same scoreline tonight. But let's hope that it's a tactical battle and a tactical masterclass that's going to be happening. And we hope, in all sincerity, that we are able to see the Bielsa ball, not as much as the athletic Bilbao days. But yeah, I'm getting there. Okay. So introducing the panelists for tonight. So let's have them on screen. To my right is the ever-present Jivakta, who just finished doing the dishes and reminding me that's the old joke that I've been cracking since 3 last podcasts. Below him is the guest of honor, Mr. Varun Mani, the Leeds United fan, the only Leeds United fan I know about who has been recognized by Twitter. And to his left is the now Indian #1 in human resources management from my alma mater. So big congratulations, Kaushik, on that. Starting with Varun. Varun, do highlight us with your journey being a Leeds fan, supporting a club not in the European Big Six, but actually having that passion. All that you talked about, just run us through that again.
So I began being a fan in 2001 when the glory days of the Champions League and stuff, and I was only about 11 years old. And like I used to love the way they played, and that whole Champions League run is what attracted me to them. And post all the financial turmoil and stuff, even though Leeds went down to the Championship, I couldn't like bring myself to support any other club, and so I started following them in the Championship and subsequently in League One as well. I used to follow like the live matches through soccernet.com on Gamecast, or like written verbal commentary. So I would sit in front of the computer for 2 hours on a Saturday evening and watch like BBC updates about like someone taking a shot on goal or someone taking a goal kick and stuff like that. So I would once in a while find like radio streams, and once in like maybe 2 months there would be these illegal video streams that would be available. So it's been a tough journey, but in the last 3 years I've been able to have like decent enough access to last 3 or 4 years to watch almost every single game, and last 3 years have been just the best. And I think 16 years of like being out of the Premier League has been sort of worth it to be at this point, to have like Bielsa and the kind of football that we have at this club. And right now it's more sustainable. Earlier in 2001 or so, Leeds was like not built on solid financial foundations, but I think this time it seems a lot more different than the last false dawn that we had. Yeah.
Absolutely an amazing journey. Just to quickly highlight the lineups that have been coming in, One Football as usual did not disappoint me this time. So you can read the United lineup that's scrolling in the bottom. I'll just highlight the Leeds lineup for you. In Messler in goal, Billy Ayling, Lorente, Strujic and Alioski in defense. Calvin Phillips playing that anchor in the midfield. Costa, Dallas, Roberts and Harrison in the midfield front, and line is led by Patrick Bamford. So I'll just ask Kaushik Da, with regards to the United lineup, but Jibagda was telling me the pre-podcast that James would be starting. So I'll get his views in a moment because he has a food delivery on schedule and he's very selfish not sharing with us. Kaushik Da, how do you rate the Leeds lineup? First of all, the Leeds lineup, then the sudden inclusion of Dan James.
Well, Leeds, as you can see, or rather have seen in pretty much many of the games before, if you allow them to play the way they want to play, they'll hurt you and hurt you pretty bad. Bielsa, I did an interview a few days back, or rather, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday. He was really complimentary towards Ole's style of play, very simplified. He was very simple in his words and said, playing simple football is very difficult, and players should do what they do. And when they do what they're instructed to do, the football becomes easy. So if you see Leeds, the way they play, I know they always are going helter skelter when they are attacking. They are very aggressive when they attack. They press high, and if you allow them that opportunity, they will hit you and hit you hard with some really quality football, something which is characteristic of Bielsa. But however, with that comes the frailties which exist with having a really high pressing game, and that is where I believe somebody such as Dan James, who is very combative, who has an extremely high work rate, who can run pretty much his bottoms off throughout the entire game, would somehow find it himself in a very good position to be able to exploit any high line which the lead provides, to run in behind, to stretch the plays if they can, and to settle the uh, defense out of position in a way or so, because that's what he's so good at, to run with the ball and to chase down people. So I believe his inclusion, as we have rather seen in certain games, have been pretty accurate with the way he was supposed to do. He is supposed to run, snatch the ball, not really that much, but then show his tenacity, show his intensity as well as his work rate. So I'm pretty sure the same set of characteristics would be used today as well. So I believe if he plays well, he can cause Leeds headaches defensively because they like to go on the offensive a lot more. Thank you. Over from my
Right.
side.
Okay, Jivagda is back with his Polish Zomato delivery, by the way. Jivagda, you were discussing about how Dan James was a sure starter. I was disagreeing because Pogba misses out on this lineup. Let me just read it out to you in formations term. Dean Anderson, as usual, on goal. He's the number one choice right now. Wan Bissaka with Luke Shaw on the wing back. Maguire Lindelof, the trusted centre back pairing. McTominay and Fred in a magnitude, in all the big matches they have featured. Greenwood in a rich vein of form alongside Fernandes and Dan James with Rashford up top. So, Jivagda, exclusion of Pogba, inclusion of Dan James. Expected Pogba to play with Dan James, wouldn't you?
I mean, I wasn't sure about Pogba. I was sure about Dan James because the way Leeds play and they push up and the space that we would get to exploit behind their defense. James is basically a no-brainer. So he had to start. Which wing? I was not sure. Last time he played on the right wing, to the best of my memory. So maybe I was expecting James to start on the right, perhaps one of Pogba and Rashford on the left and Cavani up top. Like you said very validly, that the space that Leeds leave in their inside their box also is something that should be exploited by a seasoned striker, and that's something Cavani does ever so well. So from that perspective, maybe I would have expected him to start. But fair play, we've gone for pace and nothing else but pace in our attack, and that worked so well last time around for us. Let's see. But let's see how Bielsa responds, because I hope he's learned from his mistakes in the last game.
We have all heard that 20-minute monologue that Bielsa actually took in. Varun, moving on to you very quickly. The lineups, we all discussed about the lineups. Do you think that United, just as Jivagda said, that have gone all for pace and nothing but pace, because without Pogba, with only Fernandes, United seem to look without that creative spark of sorts, because Pogba have been driving games for a long while in this last couple of matches right now. So would you think Leeds have some sort of an advantage without Pogba in the starting 11?
So I think Oli chooses to teams that really come out and attack. I think it's prudent to not play. He's chosen to play Fred and McTominay and Bruno instead of having Pogba in there. And I think it's the exact same lineup from the last game versus us. And I think that probably in the league, I think your Man United are probably the best counter-attacking team. The one-touch play and the pace, I think it's unparalleled. And the kind of team that Leeds is, not afraid to leave, not afraid to go man to man. I think it's made sense for them to stick to the same team that won the last time. And I think so. The difference between Leeds from the last time and now is that we had a lot of injuries at the back. Although we did go through a phase of conceding a lot of goals, but in the last 8 or 9 games we've only conceded I think 7 goals. So I think we're much better defensively. Llorente has made a big difference. And I think that we won't be as gung ho as we were the last time. I think those early goals really destroyed us. And like even Oli himself said that 6-2 maybe wasn't a fair scoreline, but I think it was probably fair. But maybe we should have scored one or two more. But I think like it was a great game to watch, and I hope this one will be the same. But I think our side of play suits you all, and who knows if it clicks in the first 20 minutes, I think you all will win pretty easily. But I think if the more longer it gets into the balance, I think we have a
Right.
chance of getting something.
The only difference was that Martial was playing in the last match, so Greenwood didn't
Ah,
start.
okay.
That's the only change
Greenwood, okay.
that we.
Fair,
Yeah,
fair.
because Bielsa on his monologue actually praised Martial that in the second McTominay goal, that how important was that one pass. There was just only one place that one pass could have got him, and he did that. So we'll diverge into
That's
the
true.
tactical bit in a bit. While before that, actually, I'll move over to Koshikda very quickly. So this is a banner that Leeds came up with in the match versus Liverpool, and it says the word that's on the highlight is that earn it. How impressed were you being a rivals on the pitch, but generally off the pitch? How impressed were you with this gesture, with the European Super League conundrum that just passed us by in the last week? So how just run us through your emotions through that.
When I first got the news about this so-called ESL thing, it was probably some sort of a breakthrough story by Sky Sports. And pretty much everything is rumors when it comes to news like this. However, something like this was discussed even a few years back. So I was like, and then I heard there were six Premier League teams who would be part of this, and I was praying, please, not Man United, please, please, please. You guys are probably one of the most recognizable clubs in the entire world, and how you dealt with yourselves and the NHS and everybody else during the pandemic. And one of your main club players, that is Marcus Rashford, he has been so wonderful with people, especially children from the backward sections of society, to help them. That would be cruel on each and every Man United supporter to see their club featured in a, what can I say, a sort of a self-made thing where you, even if you lose you will stay, even if you don't lose you stay, and you continue to get the cash. So it was devastating because it challenged each and everything, and one after the other we were seeing new rules coming up. Football matches would be lesser in duration. Other clubs, even if they join in as qualifiers, they might not even get a chance in the next edition of the ESL, but the Founders Club might be there. And most definitely, if you see clubs such as Nottingham Forest, if you see clubs such as Aston Villa, they have more European titles than the sum of the so-called original members who were in the so-called ESL, which was masterminded by none other than Mr. Fiorentino Perez and others. So I wanted to see some sort of thing come up from the other 14 teams in the Premier League to show them that this is not the way to do it. And trust me, even though Leeds is a rival and a very bitter one, but to see them displayed against Liverpool was a sight to behold, and I supported them immensely. And even I supported the Chelsea people. I posted on my Facebook, "Keep the blue flag flying high," when they completely swarmed outside Stamford Bridge and
Right.
demanded that their team withdrew. Because rivals on the pitch, but love for football is the same. And if you threaten with our identity, we will revolt. And revolution where there is love and unity together will always outtrump any cynistic attitude or any cynicism or evil nature of these so-called owners who think they can mess with our beautiful game. That's it.
Absolutely brilliant words from Koshikda. Now, Jivan, heading over to you. That I'm taking off on Koshikda's last sentence that football is for the fans and owners dare not screw with that legacy. So, on the anniversary of the foundation of Manchester United, we had a protest that first the first domino that fell will be there in a bit, and the second one was trending all over Twitter. It was hashtag Glazers out. So we have already discussed the money hungry leeches that they are, and I have no shame in admitting that. So the protests that are coming in right now, even there was some conflicting reports that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who had been a part of this movement in 2005, publicly had actually went ahead and said that Joel Glazer loves the club. It's diplomatic. But we had to talk about this, right? So, do you think that there's this belief somewhere everywhere that Ole is a puppet? Uh, just a yes man for the owners. But the resolve that he has, the grit that he has, is it unfair to us fans, or is it unfair to him on the whole aspect? Just drive us to the professionalism part and the fan part of the things.
Yeah, first of all, I think the news that came out regarding uh, Ole coming out in Carrington and telling fans to go away, and that he Joel Glazer, he believes Joel Glazer has the best interest of the club in his heart, is wrong. It was misquoted. It was somebody else who said that. That was clarified after the protests, and we've got a very deeper insight into what Ole thinks and what Ole believes about football in general in the press conference. He didn't shy away from the questions that he was lobbed towards him in terms of ESL. He clearly stated his belief that football is football because of competition. If you don't have the fear of failure in you, then there is no point uh, in the charm of the sport anymore. So that's Solskjaer, and I never had a doubt that he would defend the rights of the fans, but more importantly, defend the sanctity of the game itself. Being who he is, being who he has been, being the person who scored that goal in the 1999 final in New Camp, knowing what it means to be in those moments, knowing what it feels like to win those games. So I never had a doubt about that at all. So that's the first part. Second is, yes, we had a protest yesterday. It was around 3,000 people around Old Trafford. It was a beautiful protest, completely unorganized, um, completely spontaneous, if I may say. And I believe as the club that Man United are, and as the institution that Man United have been in the last 10, 15 years, despite Glazers, we had a moral obligation to do that. We had a moral obligation to take a stand against our owners who have literally betrayed us, perpetrated this crime. And I don't think this is anything but a crime, what they did to try and take people's dreams away from them. Even more ironically, so because our stadium is called the Theater of Dreams. For Man United to have been a part of this is absolutely freaky shameful. So the fans had to take a stand. We had a moral obligation. We have done it once. There will be a much bigger and more organized protest against Liverpool next week. And eventually, I believe what we need to finish what we started in 2005, which is to drive Glazers out, which didn't happen in 2005 because people didn't know the true horrors of the evil that these people would bring to the club. Now people know that. Now people have seen the worst manifestation of that in terms of how they have tried to suck the dreams again out of the football fans themselves. So that has to happen, and I believe we should be leading those, being who we are.
Quite interesting take on the whole matter. Varun, a bit off topic from your Leeds allegiance over here. The European Super League that commenced had actually, after that, fans were calling out for a 50% plus one ownership of the entirety of the German model, as we colloquially say. So, would you think that, even I had this discussion with Jivakta on the day the news was being fed out by the media, that Woodward used to work for JP Morgan, who was the sponsor in 1999, who were the eventual sponsors of the so-called European Super League, and he helped Joel Glazer and the Glazer family overtake Manchester United in 2005, became CEO, had that untouchable status, and just as the European Super League got cancelled, even after so many failures, he resigned due to this one particular thing, that was the failure of the European Super League. So if this is a thing that was being in the run works for around 15 or 20 odd years, such catastrophe of a plan that whoever masterminded, I have no clue about it really. Media says it's Perez because he's the president, but I rarely doubt, I highly doubt that. But Varun, would you think that 50% plus one ownership model would actually bring some cease to this fire of privately owned clubs?
That's a tough question to answer. But so I've seen a lot of, so like with at least what I've seen with the Leeds fans and stuff like that, is we've had horrible owners in the past. Until now, we had like Ken Dates, Massimo Cellino, and these some frauds called GFH Capital, who were the only broke Middle Eastern consortium I've ever heard of. So there were a lot of movements for fans to get on the board and stuff, and like there were some promises made by these chairmen to have this fan ownership. But what I felt from the ground was that it created a lot of divide amongst the fan base as well. So even amongst fan ownership, there'd be certain preeminent members or like sections of the fan base who would get a lot more authority than would be available to other sections of the fans, and that creates a lot of ill will between the two sections. So I haven't followed the German model enough to know how they handle these issues, but I think in a place which is so passionate and like the emotions are very high in England, especially when it comes to football and the tribalism that's around it, especially of clubs like Leeds, Manchester United, Liverpool, which have very very emotional fan bases. I think there could be a bit of ill will amongst the fans as well, which is not. I think it's important to keep the ownership of the club away from the fans in certain cases. I don't can't give you the best answer, but for what I'm seeing, it maybe not the be all and end all solution that some think it might be. So if you can get good, if the Premier League itself can vet their owners in a much better way, with the fit and proper test or the owners and directors test, that's really important for them to get those systems in place before a potential owner comes to a club. Okay? So the checks and balances need to be there beforehand instead of just giving like the club away to the highest bidder or whatever. That's my 2 pence.
Absolutely, because this is the thing that there needs to be someone needs to clear it up, because otherwise you get these money hungry leeches getting all over and grasping all over the entire. And what pissed me off the most, because these Americans, I have nothing against Americans in general, but they want to own everything and they wanted to Americanize the sport, maybe put in drafts. We all discussed that in detail in the European Super League podcast, one with my mates and the other one with Mr. Ankit Bajaj as well. But whatever, that is temporarily done for so, but something that is not temporary is our podcast partner. To quick shout out to our podcast partner to our day. It is sponsored by Wise Chimps. Wise Chimps are a digital marketing agency who provides digital presence and accessibility to all sorts of businesses. To give an idea, they provide certain features to their clients, which includes local listing, logo design, virtual tour, verification, and whatnot. In short, if you've got a business, they've got a plan. So potential investors of the Premier League, if you want to grow your standings, Wise Tips is the place to visit. Otherwise, if you have any business that you want to grow yourself on the social media front, do contact at the rate Wise Tips Kolkata on Instagram. Do take my name. They'll probably offer some very feasible amount of service for free. If or else, do complain to me. I'll drop that down in the suggestions box. Just joking. They are a wonderfully organized team. So do hit them up. Do check them out, and do what you're good at. That's what matters, because at the end of the day, hard work that pays off more than anything. So in spite of that shithousery, let us have actually a talk about Koshik. Just be ready. So I'll just actually highlight a few names over here. So apart from the protest, United have been doing the rounds recently, because Jadon Sancho was very much touted last season. United have suddenly cooled over the interest that has been reported by Fabrizio Romano, and a new name has popped up, one from the Premier League, and one whom we are playing tonight is Leeds United's Raphinha. So, contrary to the rumors of Jadon Sancho's price tag, Raphinha would come in and half. Varun is grinning. I don't like. I know the look on his face. It's the Cristiano Ronaldo scene all over again for him. So, would you actually take a Raphinha, a Premier League proven winger? By the way, I don't know why he doesn't start tonight, over Jadon Sancho?
On a few things. First of all, if you have Edinson Cavani, who is currently in the middle of the picture for a year more, and especially with the buzz that is coming around different news outlets, some from Uruguay, some from within England, that one says he wants to stay, other says that he wants to go back to South America to Boca Juniors. So if you lose Cavani, and if he's not there for a year more, you also have to get into the market to look for a striker. And so when you look for a striker, I'm not obviously would want something like a Haaland, but no, that's not affordable. Seriously, in case of a pandemic where cash lying around or the capital lying around for you to acquire such expensive players is pretty difficult, even if you have the best sponsorship deals. So in my mind, if in case uh, Cavani leaves, or rather he doesn't stay, and we instead offer some of our funds, which was reserved for somebody like Sancho, who would come up for a very high price. In that case, I would rather go for Raphinha. He's not bad at all. Rather, he has impressive stats and an out-and-out proper right winger who can come inside, go outside, provide assists, and is a very technical, very skilled, and a very gifted player. And if somebody like a Bruno Fernandes starts reacting about him the day he comes to Manchester United, obviously he might be somebody pretty special, because Bruno Fernandes doesn't really, during his interviews, doesn't really talk or butter up people more than what they are. He's brutally honest about what he thinks about players, as we can see about his talk and relationship with Paul Pogba. So he even hyped up or even talks very highly of Raphinha. So most definitely, if Sancho is not available cash-wise, budget-wise, or for any other reason, I believe Sancho would be worth a buy. And all of it hinges on Mr. Edinson Cavani if he stays. And if he stays, a lot of the cash from the other side will free up, and we might see a bit part deal happen with Jadon Sancho. Maybe that's my thought.
Quite an interesting 2 cents over there. Jibogda, very quickly to highlight, we had this discussion offline about Sancho versus Raphinha. And Raphinha is a player I like. Raphinha, because as Kaushikda said, Bruno Fernandes doesn't go out and endorse players the way he does. And very high words of praise from him from the recent interview about Raphinha being playing together in Sporting Lisbon, and even Fred coming up that he's met him on international duty suggests that Raphinha is definitely in the mold of creating spark that we are lacking in the right wing. So, your 2 cents on the Raphinha versus Sancho debate, and as well rumors leaking out that Rafael Varane has actually asked to leave the club. Florentino Perez has somewhat confirmed that. So, would you think Rafael Varane would be a Manchester United player by the end of the transfer window, of long dragged out? We have experience in long dragged out transfer window. So much that Nicolas Guyton and Wesley Sneijder is still linked with us even after their proposed retirements and stuff. But on a serious note, do you think that a Rafinha and a Varane would be better than just a Sancho, or maybe just a Sancho or a Ben White? Your thoughts?
I'm gonna ask Varun about Raphinha, but let me just quickly go through this within 35 seconds. Number one, Raphinha, if he's available at half the price of Sancho, then definitely go for him by all means. 30-40 million shouldn't hurt us. Assuming Sancho is 80 and Raphinha therefore is 40, I doubt Leeds will sell anybody to us for 40 million, especially a player who's in high demand and who's fit gelling well in a Bielsa system. Varane is a great player to be wishfully thinking about. Having known United, we're not going to sign Rafael Varane. We're going to end up paying 60 million for Ben White. So really not looking to get into that discussion at all. What I want to ask Varun is, what's so special about this guy? I mean, I know he's technically good, he is PC, but like, why do people keep talking about him on and off? I've seen a couple of games. I genuinely haven't thought he's like brilliant. He's a functional player. He's got good pace. He's technically good, but he didn't look like somebody who can win games for a team. So what's the deal?
I mean, so whenever I've seen him, I've always thought he's really good. He came in like at the end of the on the last day of the transfer window, and without having any preseason, he settled in really quickly. I think he's not a 40 million player. He's at least a 70 million player, to be honest. He's one of those late bloomers, because he's had a late beginning in his career, and so he did really well for Rennes last season. Got them in the Champions League. He's really hardworking. I think he is a match winner. He's won like quite a few games for us. He's been like amazing. Like he can cut in really well. He's very good on the left. Moreover, his work rate is just fantastic. His desire, his aggression, you can really physically see it, and he's out to like he seems like to be a perfectionist on the pitch, and I think someone who will go really far. I really hope that he doesn't leave the season. I hope he stays at least one more year. I think he'll be a great signing for any club, pretty much. And like imagine him under Bielsa for one more season, and with the preseason behind him, I think he's going to be like a killer player. He's had a couple of games where he's not been like really good. I think that's the case with any player, just the luck of the draw. But I think he's a he's a one of the best signings of the season for any club in the Premier League. And right now he's injured since the last two games. That's why he's not playing. I'll be more confident about tonight if he was playing.
So just to like, and this is a discussion Samrat will remember. We've talked about how United actually needs a wide playmaker and not a sort of a winger who cuts in or a wide forward. And like when I've seen Raphinha, he's more of that sort of a player who cuts in and looks to drive towards the defense and not really create chances for his teammates. Is that how he always plays, or is that just like me analyzing 3 games out of 40?
No, so like Bielsa himself has said that he can play as a number 10 as well. So
Okay.
he's really versatile. He can play on the left also. If you ask him to play center midfield, he'd probably do that as well. His
He
vision is
has
really
played
good.
left in a few matches.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
played left in a lot of matches. I think he'll be a like he can play anywhere in that behind the striker. Bielsa himself has said that he can play anywhere there, so I'd like probably listen to him on that one. I think his vision is excellent. His like he's not just like a flair player. He has a great ball. You know, his weight of the pass is awesome. He can see things with which a lot of players can't. So I think he's in 1 more year he'll be like really top class.
Now, one thing I'd like to ask Varun as well on this is that, as you said, that he came in on the last day of the transfer window, and Marcelo Bielsa was actually after Dan James, and that failed transfer for a 35 million bid, 30 to 35 million odd in that range. He actually went for Raphinha. Now, United fans would have brain farts on why Dan James is still our Manchester United player instead of Raphinha. But still, that the proof lies in the pudding. The last match against Leeds, Dan James shone, and tonight he is in the starting lineup over Paul Pogba. But I'll ask Varun this: is that what does Marcelo Bielsa? It's impossible to understand what he thinks, but what makes Dan James an attractive proposition that you went out to buy someone who is probably regarded not as talented or as gifted as a Raphinha, but twice as much hardworking and puts his heart and soul into the Bielsa system. So, would you actually expect a Dan James and Raphinha, Dan James plus cash for Raphinha?
You wish.
No, I don't think so. I think we've got a much better player now. I think Bielsa really liked him when he was in at Swansea, and what we are lacking currently is like a right-footed winger. We have all four left-footed wingers right now, so that's a huge handicap. Becomes a bit predictable if we get a right-footer. I think we'll complete us. I think his pace is obviously the biggest attraction for Leeds. Like you all, I think we're very good on the counter, even though that's not only like the only part of our game. But yeah, I think he likes him because his work rate of Dan James is he's an honest, a very honest player. I think Manu fans like really hate on him for understandable reasons. You've seen higher caliber players at your club in the past, and maybe he's not good enough for you all. But I think in like a system like Leeds, I think Dan James would play pretty well. And I hope that he's not one of the targets though. Maybe like a year or so ago when he was available, I think we I would have been happy with him because I trust PSA completely. But now we have Raphinha, and if we get rid of Costa, then I think maybe we can come back in for Dan James. I don't know, but I wouldn't be like really that happy with him being our starting player for us.
And that's they said it. Okay, pretty interesting question from Dex Homicide says that should this United trophy drought compel them to rethink being content with a number to finish? Kaushikta, your thoughts on this matter?
Well, it's something that is more got to do with a little bit on the longer term because I believe, the kind of squad that we have, some of the times we are overperforming or punching way above our weight. For example, there are various areas on the pitch itself where we are lacking. One is our right side. Then comes your central defensive midfield area, the centre back position itself, and we are over dependent on our fullbacks. If one of them gets injured, we are again back to being how we were. Considering, and the special emphasis goes to Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He plays pretty much, even though with the arrival of Alex Telles, Luke Shaw occasionally gets the rest that he deserves some of the games. You see Alex Telles starting on the left hand side, but you'll always see Juan Bissaka as a quintessential player on that side. Earlier, we used to see sometimes, what's his name, Brandon Williams. When Diogo Dalot was there, he used to play, but now Brandon Williams pretty much is on the fringes. I don't know if he plays or not. and Diogo Dalot is obviously on loan. So if you want to go ahead and start challenging for trophies with squads like this, you will come up with reality pretty soon than enough. Just like what happened with our Champions League campaign, we were pretty much amazing. We won matches on the trot, and then suddenly it all disintegrated. And the frailties in our squad, the obvious frailties which existed, they shone through, and we pretty much had trouble coping up with that. So even if Lissi, from my side, the considering the place we are in the Europa League right now, we are currently a few steps away from the trophy itself. So it would be amazing to finish this year off by finally winning the trophy, which we should have won last year, but we missed out. That, along with us number two finish this year, would probably a very good foundation to build on the coming years. Because last year, after 38 games, we had 68 points, but this year, with 32 games, we are on 66 with a much better goal difference, and we are currently having, as you all know, a very, very good away form. And so, slowly, this team is getting its foundation stronger and stronger, and with addition of a few more players over the coming transfer windows, I think will be a pretty much a force to be reckoned with. Barring a few drawn matches or losses, we have been right up there with City itself this year, even though we have not such a strong squad compared to them. So I wouldn't want my team to be content with number two finish, just like some other teams are with their clubs. No philosophy and all that. I want my team to succeed, but I would take it as it's a foundation and obviously a long-term goal. That's it.
Absolutely. Very wise words coming on properly to answer that question. So, okay, talking about goal difference, by the way, I had an interesting, I didn't heard, I checked on an interesting stat that after 32 games with Marcelo Bielsa's swashbuckling football, Leeds' goal difference is zero. So, that's something we're going to talk about in this tactical analysis segment that we have right now. Jivak, you're up on screen right now. So, this is the slide that I have from Leeds' campaign last season, where the theme for tonight is overloads. Now, you know how much I love talking about overloads and half spaces and zone 14th. And yes, Ranjit Bajaj sir is waving
I
at
was
me
hoping I
from
wouldn't
somewhere.
hear half spaces tonight, but okay.
No, seriously, overloads are happening because of the heats. If you have all the viewers who are wanting to know what the term half space or Halbram or zone 14 is, there's a video where Ranjit Bajaj sir discussed this in depth. So you can connect that with why overloads are so popular, because they crowd the half spaces, the defense is pushed in, and you overload with your wingers and your overlapping midfielders, which we see with Manchester City at times. So, Jeepak, just walk us through this. You've been quite an ardent fan of FIFA, Football Manager, and you know how Marcelo Bielsa essentially functions. So, just to walk us through their initial style of play, the overloads that they create, and the huge leaks and the gaps they leave in defense, especially for a counter-attacking team like Man United. There's no pragmatism about Leeds' play, is there at all?
That's a valid point, right? I mean, Leeds to some extent is a is a very similar, like have a very similar philosophy to what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has shown at certain points of this of the season. But he always had the pragmatic sense to like bubble wrap his two center defenders with two central defensive midfielders, and that's how we have grinded out results. With Leeds, I genuinely don't feel they do that. Uh, Calvin Phillips at times, if you watch them, like Calvin Phillips is like in front of two defenders, the rest of the team is in the opposition half, and then they get countered. And talking about half space, there is essentially like two whole rivers of spaces besides their two defenders, where like two central defenders on both wings, where they can get hit simultaneously by an opposition. That's something that even somebody like Dan James profited from in our game, right? Where he slotted in down the right flank and scored that goal. So it doesn't take a team to do a lot to exploit those spaces that Leeds leave. They are a brilliant team to watch. They are a very exciting team to watch. But I mean, if you're a fan like Varun, then probably you're a very also stressful team to watch, considering the high risk, high gain form of football that you bring to the table. But then, I mean, Bielsa has always been a little eccentric, if I may use that word, in his approach across the globe. So this is what you get when you're on board with Bielsa.
Absolutely. Jivak, while you're at it, to just do answer this question. that Ole's job has been protected by fluctuating above average performances. Does United need to look past them and ask the Norwegian to bring about something new in the regime?
I mean, I'll be very happy if above average performances gets us to second in the Premier League, right? Then two more good signings and you're there. You're literally dethroning Guardiola. Uh, I genuinely don't believe that this notion that Ole is not a competent manager. Does have tactics. He has shown that time and again. Now lost count how many times he has gotten the better of Pep Guardiola, who's probably the best tactician of our generation. That said, I do believe that this team, without any reinforcements, has reached its peak, at least in terms of what it can achieve in the league. Maybe in Champions League, it could have done better if we could have managed to beat freaking Istanbul Başakşehir. I still don't know why we didn't. But in terms of league performance, I believe this is the absolute peak. If we end up winning the league with Fred and McTominay playing midfield, then that's a shame to football. I genuinely don't believe that can happen. I genuinely don't want to see that happen. So, in order for us to progress further in the league and to challenge Guardiola's City, we do need a better center defender and we do need a better central defensive midfielder. With the kind of news that Sojar has shown in terms of squeezing performance out of players, I do believe he can get to a better position or a better version of football and better results with this team if he gets better players. And unless that does or does not happen, I genuinely don't believe Ole has done anything to deserve the sack.
Quite brilliantly put. Okay, Varun, you're up right now. So in this slide, just what Jivagda talked about, there's just Calvin Phillips and the rest of the team is on the half of the pitch trying to pertain over. And as you can see very well in this slide, that see the amount of players cropping up on United's left-hand channel, and this is by the way United are attacking, and this is just before the McTominay first goal. In the very just before the McTominay second goal, where actually Martial drives in and brings in the ball between three people. So the amount of space that Leeds offer as a team defending is concerning, and that is relevant with the goal difference that is on plot right now. So Leeds 20 points behind United, goal difference 0. I just loved saying that, by the way, so please don't mind. So banter aside, just take us through this tactically. Why does Bielsa, with all his attacking prowess, actually leaves the defending back home? I genuinely don't understand a manager of his caliber in something like this.
No, so like I think you're like as I mentioned earlier already, at least we've got 10 clean sheets this season. I think 10 or 11 clean sheets, which is not it's not as bad as you think. And also we've had like Robin Koch, Lorente, and Cooper missing. Lorente made his debut for one game in November. Then he played. The next time he played was in Feb. Koch has been missing since December for like 4 months of the season. So it's not fair to say that Leeds have just been like very open. It's a lot to do with personnel as well. It's a high risk game, no doubt. But if you look at the last 8 or 9 games, we've conceded very few goals, and we're happy to let the opposition centre backs play through us. I have no problem. But the last game versus y'all was like at a very different juncture in the season, and our performances were way more different than what they've been now. I think having players fit, and so if you watch a game versus Man City, I think Leeds were defensively very astute. I think we absolutely smothered them for chances, and we let them just keep the ball wide and with no penetration in the middle. Bielsa, like the system allowed John Stones to have as much as the ball as he wanted, but that really didn't cause us that much harm. So yeah, those spaces do appear because it's a man-to-man defensive system. And with regards to the why the attacking play, why do you sacrifice certain aspects of the attacking play for maybe a little more open defense? But if you can see Leeds is going to finish 10th or 11th or maybe 9th, maybe 7th, who knows? But I think you have to see what works for a team. I think there's a lot of unnecessary emphasis on the number of goals Leeds concede, and the fact that they're a championship team who no one's batting an eyelid when they're finishing this high in the table and they're playing the football that honestly no one else in the league except maybe Man City and at times Man U produce. I think that shows a lot about like what's really working for us, and I'm like really enjoying it. I've never seen football as good as this in my life. So I'm pretty lucky. I'm very happy.
Absolutely. Words of rejoice there from Varun as he speaks about his passion. But tactically, going back to the thing again, Koshika, you're up right now. So let me just highlight another slide. So not this one. So yeah, this is the one. Martial against oppositions which play on overloads and Jivagda's favorite word, half spaces, is that Martial had pretty two very world class performances against Man City, where he destroyed the Manchester City defense with his hold up play, with his link up play, and with his forward movement. And in the Leeds match, where he provided two beautiful assists. And the main theme of that game, those two games, was him dropping deep and pulling the man that was in a zonal mark with him. And that allowed the other players to get on the ball. And what Varun said very aptly, that against Manchester City, with all the creative prowess that they had, they strangled the ball of them and it made it very difficult. So I'll ask two things from you on this. Number one, how much are we going to miss the effect of an Anthony Martial in tonight's match, considering the tactical brilliance that he brings in? And how much are we gonna miss Paul Pogba? Because with just Fernandes and with McFred sitting in behind, there's very little creative output, and it becomes difficult to actually break some teams down. So how would you just derive this resolute lead side?
Martial has its own set of rather very, very strong attributes. He is, for example, one of those players on his night, and when he is actually on his top of his game, he can wriggle through, difficult situations pretty much seamlessly. It's like the ball is on rails or pretty much tied with a string on his feet, and he has a magnet with which the ball moves wherever he wants. And even though there have been issues with United playing out of the back, they have been caught with their pants down in a couple of occasions. There have been situations as well. I believe it was the FA Cup match at Old Trafford. There was this intense City press on one side of the field for United, and I remember Wan-Bissaka and somebody else literally casually play one-twos, a few black flips, and just get the ball out. So, as Varun mentioned, and as we have seen Leeds do, they always go for man for man. So when Martial travels even or comes back to his own half to collect the ball, the person actually behind him follows as well. So huge spaces appear, and he can pretty much turn and run away from you. So having somebody like him in the field, in the team at that point of time is invaluable, because not only does he have skill, he has devastating pace, something on par with Rashford and pretty much with Dan James. So seeing him miss this game probably is a bit of a back foot, and so is Paul Pogba. Him and Bruno Fernandes together in tandem, they will cause mayhem. However, there is a risk to what happens sometimes. Paul Pogba, for instance, sometimes he is so confident about his abilities with the ball, starts to hold the ball longer than he needs to, and tries to wriggle out of situations. And on occasions, what happens is he tumbles over because he's a very tall and very stout guy. So if you foul him, most often than not, he would most likely fall down, just like what happens because the center of gravity and the normal things of body physics. So, and compared to somebody like Dan James obviously is a more stout figure. He runs about, he has a better center of gravity, so he can stifle and hound, the word which I like to use is you can hound the players in and around you, the opposition players. So not starting Paul Pogba is a bit of a blessing in disguise as well, because if he loses the ball, sometimes he occasionally won't be in a position to track back, because when you play Pogba and Fernandes together, you would expect him to play on the upper channel rather to exploit his full potential. So just like the PSG away game, I believe he might be the ace up the sleeve in the second half when, let's say, Leeds are somehow trying to dominate their football and he needs to change up the formation or spice up the things a bit. He can bring him on in the second half and just like that turn the game on its head. So he might be the trick up his sleeve in this case. That's how I would want to say. But yes, Martial is missing, but Greenwood pretty much can do the job considering the confidence he is in.
Quite a testament to actually Jivagda's brilliant spot, that how Leeds go man to man and how cramped up they are with the ball. See the ball in play over here and how many men they commit. So one long ball from Lindelof to Rashford, who's playing in between the defenders. If I'm not wrong, or they'll rotate occasionally. So Leeds are definitely caught out. So I hope Leeds have learned their lesson from that horror drubbing. and just around probably 9 minutes to go for the match. So we'll just take the predictions very quickly, starting off with Jivagda. So the how do you think the match is gonna go? Last time it was nuts. No predictions came through. So this time, how do you think the predictions are gonna
Yeah, I'm gonna take a cue. Basically from what we discussed right now, probably it's gonna be a narrow win for us, 2-1, 3-1 perhaps. I don't see us dropping points. I mean, with all due respect to Leeds, we're quite stronger than them at this point in time.
So that's what Manchester City thought. And Varun, would you agree with what Jivagda said? Leeds
I'm going
from
for a draw. I'm going for a draw.
a nil-nil draw or a score all.
No, I think it'll be a scoring game, but I just hope it's a really good spectacle because that's what football is about. And like I hope it can be a spectacle for everyone watching because the Premier League has some good games, and this is definitely one of the more classic games of the Premier League. And I hope this one's closer than last time. With Raphinha, I might have predicted the Leeds win because obviously I don't predict them to lose. But I think this one could be a draw. I don't know.
Kaushikda. So do you go for a nil-nil or a 10-10 entertaining game?
I would pretty much go for a pretty entertaining one, but not like the one-sided entertainment which I pretty much had. I basically went to chop up some potatoes and I came back. Then we were 2-0 up. I was like, what was this going on? And I thought maybe it's Martial, McTominay with 2 goals, one with a left foot finish. I was in dreamland. So no, I don't want something like that. Obviously, the way I absolutely like the way Leeds play sometimes because they take points off some of our bitter rivals in as well. So it's good way. When you play free flowing attacking football, you don't give a damn about sometimes defenses. It's good to watch. So, but yes, just like some things aren't inevitable. I don't want United to lose their away record right now, the away win record. So I will also go with Jibok prediction of us a win. I probably would like a 2-1 because I am pretty sure we will concede a goal through some sort of a central defensive mess up.
That's the theme of theme of every game. So as everyone highlighted that it's going to be an entertaining game of sorts because Leeds would attack and United have that armor in their ranks of that long ball and that's why we have gone up with pace. Quite a counter tactic from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to actually restrict Leeds with their man-to-man approach and probably that would in theory create spaces for Bruno Fernandes to actually go in. So okay, gets in with the comment that Leeds 3 United 2, probably a Liverpool fan. I am not sure, but that quite might be the scoreline with the way Leeds play generally and the way we start horrendous at times. It won't be a shock if we consider
And it's a home game for us, so yeah, I can see why that could happen.
So pretty much the cat's out of the bag. But what I hope genuinely is that for an entertaining game, but what I would expect is that Leeds to play the pressing style, United to have the quick one-touch play in between, and it all rests on how Dan James actually plugs in Billy Ayling in that left-back slot for assuming he's starting out wide right, and actually cuts his link of because it's been very influential with what Leeds try to build up tactically. So I hope whoever is going to have better, I say this always, that better transition wins you games, but whoever has the better possession, I think that's going to define the outcome of the match because both teams like to play quick, fluid, fast attacking football. And if Leeds somehow manage to start to dominate the game, I think the floodgates are going to get you. So let's hope that it's the other way around. So thanks, Varun, for joining in.
Thanks a
the
lot.
only Leeds fan.
Nice to talk to everyone.
Absolutely, the only Leeds fan we know, and he was just absolutely rattled last time when we hit him for 6.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's quite closer this time. Maybe a 10-0 would suffice and breaking the all-time Premier League record. So Jivagda, thank you so much. Kaushikda, as always. Let's hope for a very, very good match. Let's meet up very, very soon. The game is starting in 5 minutes. So bye-bye for now. Let's catch up.
See you guys.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Good luck.
Bye. That was pretty much about it from Podcast with Neil. The Roses Derby is upon us, and I sincerely hope that Man United take away our breath, just like what they did last time. And if you're new to the channel, do hit that subscribe button. The road to 1.2k is on and running, so need all your support and love and as well to the support for United to score some more goals and actually close the gap on Manchester City, who seem to be invisible at this moment of time. Podcast with Neil would be back in midweek covering the UCL semi-finals and Europa League semi-finals. I wearing this shirt and calling a Europa League. I know it doesn't sound much, but Roma against Manchester United is what we're going to be covering. So do hope for the Manc to be back this midweek on the later half of the Monday to Friday regime. Before that, Manchester City versus FC Porto. Man, I forgot who Manchester City are. Okay, Manchester City versus PSG. Real Madrid versus Chelsea. I was just kidding. Will be on at podcast video. Make sure to tune in. It's going to be an awesome session. Again, if you're not subscribed, if you're here for the first time, do hit that subscribe button. I'll take one last comment from the Dexter fan. I hope just the homicide on the text is very clear. United won't score until Leeds score first. That's common knowledge. Okay, with that, that's my cue. This is your boy Neil for Netflix Football. The match starts in 3 minutes. Let's hope that it's going to be a cracker of a game. We'll meet you very, very soon. Do stay tuned, do share, do subscribe, do like, and do keep the love and the warmth spreading. This is Neil. Bye bye for now, and let's meet in midweek. So, chalo, let's hope for an entertaining game. Bye.